All right, so this is the Afterburn. So if you have comments or questions, you can come on up to the podium here and line up in the chairs where Shamash Steve is. And if you're online, I'll try to balance this out a little bit. Start typing in your questions. We have a little bit of time here. We're not eating until 6:30. So I have about an hour. We can take comments and questions, so I think that could work out okay. All right? Okay, I think we planned this to go to about 6:15, so we're good. All right, so who wants to go first? Rabbi Tom's coming up to go first.
When we were going through James 2, verse 23, it says, the thing that I got out of this is Abraham didn't really understand what Yahweh was telling him. I don't think he did. And he didn't try to analyze it. I think sometimes we overanalyze things. Abraham was just told to get up and go, and he said, all right, I'm already packing. I'm on my way. I'm out of here. There was no waiting or hesitating or questioning. He just went.
Amen. True. That is true. Look, why did Abraham do that? Why did he do what he was told? Because he knew who he was dealing with. That's where the belief is. Okay? He didn't believe necessarily that, leaving his family and going to this place. And this, he believed that whatever Yahweh said would be the right thing. He didn't have to understand everything. Do you think he understood when he was told to offer Isaac? He didn't understand any of that. Didn't argue either, did he? Didn't discuss it. He argued a little bit about Sodom and Gomorrah, didn't argue anything about his son. Because he just trusted. Now, he didn't know what was going on with Sodom and Gomorrah. A bigger place with lots of different people, a wide variety of things, and he was wondering about, what are some righteous people there? But with his son, he just told him specifically, you take your son. And he said, okay, I got to trust that this is going to make sense somehow, even though I can't understand it right now. Your problem, as Rabbi Tom points out, is you don't maybe really truly embrace who you're dealing with. You don't trust him. You really don't believe that he has everything under control. You really don't believe that he can give you eternal life. You really don't believe that he either causes or allows all things. You don't. There's parts of the time you do and parts of the time that you don't. And when you struggle, it's because you truly don't fully embrace 24/7 that he is who he is. And that he can do everything he said. And that he will do everything he said. Regardless of whether or not you're involved in it, it's going to happen and he's going to do it. Okay? Abraham it was accorded to him or reckoned him as righteousness because he believed whatever Yahweh said. And he walked in accordance with that belief. His walk demonstrated, which is why in Genesis 26:5, I think it is, right? Okay, it talks about, it says, there's promises that are being made here to, let's see. Okay, we're dealing with Yaakov here. And then at verse 5 of 26, it says, because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my charge, my commands, and my laws and my Torah, he said, I'm going to do all these things for you. Wait a minute, this is before Moses. The Torah wasn't officially given because the Torah existed before. It just wasn't codified in sort of the formal way it is now. But Abraham did these things, because he believed. Amen? All right, Laura.
I just want to make a few comments. I was thinking about stepping out in belief and about reaching out to people with whom you are uncomfortable. I was raised in a very small, monochromatic, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Catholic world. Very small school. There were 2 Jewish people in my class. And, it was very monochromatic, kind of boring. But my mother always taught me, because we went to a multicultural church, that there are things about other people that we don't understand, but we were just never allowed to make fun of anyone's disability or anyone's anything. That only went so far, though, because I found, like many people, I think, that, at least for me, I have ADHD. I notice everything.
Right.
I notice accents and color and hair color and eye color and everything. But I wasn't always comfortable with someone who was maybe the homeless person on the street, or someone who didn't smell very good at church, things like that. And I think that most people feel uncomfortable because they feel like, how do I fit in with this person? How can I relate to this person? And I somehow along the way I was put in a lot of situations where I needed to get over my discomfort and say, I'm going to believe that this person has more in common with me than doesn't. And I, over the years, became fascinated with people, and actually I'm incredibly drawn to differences. I want to learn about culture, and I tend to pick up accents and mannerisms and things like that. And it is when I have the courage to ask questions and to go sit with that homeless person, or with that person that doesn't smell very good, or that person who's sitting all by themselves.
Right.
I have been so blessed by that, and so changed and enlightened and enriched. I feel like my life is richer because I now very intentionally pursue the people that are nothing like me, or
Right.
what I think
Right.
are nothing like me. And so I don't know. I guess I just wanted to encourage people who are a little uncomfortable around people that aren't like them. There is always something. Everyone has a story to tell, and it's just a tremendous blessing.
Amen. Let me say this, okay? Man, we got to get the lighting better in this place, because it's like so bright on me and then it's so dark on you guys, because the tent just doesn't handle light very well. But anyway, the thing that I wanted to say about that is, you know what? I get the most. Ultimately, right? Ultimately, I get the most out of when I give somebody a hug that they need it more than I want to give it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not really excited, but then in the giving of that hug and feeling that person get what they really needed makes me realize that hug was more important than the one I wanted to give. Because if I want to give the hug, I'm really wanting to get the hug. Right? I'm wanting to give it because I want to hug that person. But when I go and hug somebody that maybe wouldn't have been my preference, but they need it, they wanted it. It was what what I get out of that is way more than I would ever get hugging the person I wanted to hug, if you understand what I'm saying, okay? Because I could feel what it's doing for them, okay? Look, I've always had this saying, I don't know when I started, maybe when I was a teenager, that hugs don't lie. You can't fake a hug. You can't fake a hug. If your hug isn't real, they know it's not real. Okay? But you give somebody a genuine hug who really needed a hug, they know it. And you know it when you get the return. But you can't fake that. You can't just go, oh yeah. They know that. They feel that. Okay, they know that's not a real hug. They know that's like, okay, I'll do it maybe. All right? And so maybe you want to think about, if I go and try some of these things, just maybe I'll realize I'm blessing others, and then I'll get a blessing back. Because a lot of times, I've gotten such a blessing from just feeling how much that hug meant to the other person. And that comes right through, okay? All right, it comes right through. So just keep that in mind. Now, the other thing about the monochromatic and some of these other things and all this stuff that's going on, I want to tell you an interesting story. And so this thing was an incredibly sad experience for me. So remember I told you I grew up very non-racial, very non-whatever. And I ended up, my first experience in a church, and my only experience in a church, the Worldwide Church of God, right? So they were a Torah-keeping church. I was excited to be in a Torah-keeping church. They met on Saturday, kept kosher, the whole 9 yards, feast days, everything. And they had a singles. They had an active singles thing. I guess they'd have an event in different towns at different times of the year, and you could go and meet other singles. I was single, I was in my 20s. So I would go to these things, right? So the first one that came up that I could go to was called the Big Apple Dance in New York, where I lived. And I was excited to go to this dance. I had no idea how these people worked and what the rules were and all that other stuff, because I'd never been in a church. So I didn't know what was going on there, but I was a fairly conservative guy anyway, so it was fine. So I'm there, and I'm just kind of watching and seeing how things are going on. And I'm sitting at one of the tables eating, and there was a young lady sitting across from me, very sweet, but nobody had asked her to dance all night. Okay? Nobody. And I hadn't really danced with hardly anybody either, but I was there kind of just figuring things out. And it wasn't a big deal for me. I was kind of getting the lay of the land. So it was almost the last song, and I asked her, I said, would you like to dance? And she said, sure. And I went and I started dancing with her. And I was almost immediately pulled aside by the pastor because she was black and I was white. And I was like, are you kidding me? And here I thought, and I was getting so blessed because she was so happy that somebody asked her to dance. And I hadn't even realized or thought that thing about what she looked like. I just realized nobody had asked us for this. She's at this event, and one of the saddest things is when you're at an event like this and nobody shows any interest in you whatsoever. So I figured, well, the night's not getting any shorter. I said, and I thought maybe somebody would. There wasn't anything wrong with her. She was pretty enough and everything else, but I was like, nobody seemed to want to ask her, so I asked her to dance. And it just hurt to hear that. You know? And the pastor was black. I didn't understand. They had this thing about races separate, and it just made no sense to me that we would do that in a Torah observant place. Okay, that was an experience with that. Okay, I just saw a woman, a young lady in her 20s who nobody had shown any attention to. So I took it upon myself to dance. Wasn't necessarily going to be any other interest or anything else, but I was going to say, would you like, and she wanted to, and we had a great time with the dance. It was after the dance was over, I was pulled over saying, we don't do that around here. I was like, really? I was like, that, seriously? I didn't ask her to marry me, which shouldn't have been a problem either, right? But seriously. So just know that that's one of those things that we can really, what do we teach people when we react the way we do and do things the way we do? What do we teach them? All right, Judy.
Thank you for the message, Rabbi. Something I needed to hear. So just a side note, it took me a very long time, and I think I've told you this before, it took me a very long time to trust you because of the way I was brought up with leadership. And I appreciate now that the way you teach and the way you come across and the messages that you speak to all of us, that is on a personal level to my heart. But with that being said, I could take this in many different directions. Just to have a couple of remarks and then I have a question. We were raised, I was in the Worldwide Church of God from the time I was 4 until I was 7, and then in the a.o.i. But we were raised to not hate or, be prejudiced or anything like that. But we also experienced that, it was heard, whites don't marry blacks and that sort of thing. And it was just crazy. Because some of my best friends are people that are Hispanic, women that are Hispanic and black, and I really appreciate that.
It shouldn't matter, right?
Exactly.
None of that should
No,
even
it doesn't.
matter.
And I have learned so much, porque yo hablo español. So because of that, I speak Spanish. Maybe not very perfectly, but I try.
Right.
But and that's given me a heart for that, and just to possibly even use that in Yahweh's word.
Right.
But with that also being said, my main question is with love. The situation with my son, and I'm just going to be very frank here. My son still barely speaks to me. And if he does, it's in hate and yelling and screaming and cursing at me. How do I show him that love, but yet still protect myself? I mean, there's so much bitterness on my part because I have done everything I can think of, and I've prayed about this situation, and I've followed your counsel, and I just don't know, and it really hurts me where Peyton is concerned, because I don't know where that little girl's going to end up.
Right.
Not having her mama in her life, and her mama was just in jail again, and And then that Daniel being out somewhere in left field in hate land. Sorry, I don't know how else to put it.
Okay, this is the kind of thing that needs to be done in private counsel.
And I apologize. I just
Okay,
don't know.
no. It's not that. I'm just saying is the details that I would need to ask, specific to what Daniel and other things that are going on. I would have to do it. We would have to deal with that in private counsel.
But how do I show that basically with anyone?
I'd have to know more details so I can give you that answer.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
All right.
All right, because you have to find that right balance, and this is, I guess, why it's good to be brought out here, between how do you show love, but how do you make sure you're safe? Because right now, he's not safe necessarily because of all the anger and bitterness he's throwing in your direction. So that's a complicated situation. So we'll have to talk about some things that you might be able to do, maybe not. Look, so there's nothing you can do. Sometimes you just have to stay at a distance and love at a distance because it's just not safe. Okay? That hurts, but it hurts to be closer and have that all that kind of viciousness come in your direction. So let's talk about that privately.
And the one other question that I have is, there's been some stuff coming up for me that from my past. How do I forgive myself? And if is me not forgiving myself a breach of covenant? Because I'm not loving myself. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Okay. Yes, the answer is yes. It's a breach problem, and the answer is sit with me and explain to me the things. I've been doing this a lot lately, is helping people deal with their past and their traumas and be able to have that released and forgiven and be able to move on. So we can talk specifically about what you're dealing with, and I can help you, I promise, okay? All right. All right, live stream. After I get Frank, then we'll go to you. Okay, I'll kind of rotate it out that way. We'll get one more here, and then I'll get 2 or 3 with you guys.
First and foremost, I thank you, Yahweh, for our rabbi and all that he's doing. I thank you for him. I thank you for blessing me this day. But my question here is, and what I believe, it's in Hebrews 11:8. It says, by faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place. Okay, I was called, it was March the 7th, 2020 on YouTube, and he called me and my wife, you know, and that's how I've been following you ever since then.
Right.
Okay, so, and you always said that, you know, we must, you know, believe. You know, my belief, my unite is strong, you know. I don't have no doubt when it comes to him. And it's because he blessed me to learn more through you. So I appreciate that, and I thank him for that, you know. And this is my destination. This is where he sent me, and this is where I want to be. This is where I'm striving to get to, because this is my milk and honey. This is the land, you know, and now I'm here to spy out the land, you know, to spy out the land.
Good.
So that I can move here.
When you find that big bunch of grapes, I like grapes. So bring them here. Yeah.
So, you know, I want to I'm striving to be more obedient, you know. My job, I'm a janitor, you know, but I'll do anything, you know, and I want to really stop working and work for him, you know. And if I can work here as a janitor, you know, I'll do just as a janitor, anything, you know.
Amen.
And if I have the opportunity, you know, that's why I try to, anything to do here, I'm willing to do it.
Amen.
You know, because, you know, this is where he sent me, and this is where I want to be, and I want to try to find a place here. I know the place is here. I just have to go out and, spy it out and find it, and a set apart spirit to direct me.
Amen.
And I also need counseling, and I want to get my counseling. I want to get everything while I'm here because he sent me here because the last one I couldn't make it and I got lost,
Right.
So, but that wasn't the one for me. This is the one, Pesach is the one for me. That's why I'm standing here today, because this is the one he chose for me.
Amen.
And, I want to be obedient, and do everything he tell me to do through you,
Amen.
because, you are our Moses in this day and time, and that's what I truly believe, and I just thank him for you.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Thank you, Frank. I really appreciate that very much. All right, so look, I think for a lot of you, I think there is something to obeying when you're called to go out. Because I know a lot of you struggle, and I don't want to sound like some cultish sort of thing, but if I was anybody in the walk as you guys are, the first thing I'd be doing is looking for that teacher. And if I found an Ephesians 4 teacher, I would move as soon as I could to be where the teacher is and where the community seems to be forming. And I think the evidence is pretty clear that there's a community forming, considering there's like over 200 people now in the congregation locally, over 300 if they all showed up, but every week it's about 190, 200 people show up. And we started with 0. And almost everybody in the congregation moved here to be here. So I understand what Frank is talking about. And by the way, I want to give Frank a lot of credit because he was supposed to be here at Sukkot, got lost on the way here, turned around, went home. Okay? That didn't stop him though. He just planned to come to the next one. And he showed up this time. All right? But I'll also tell you what, if you watch somebody when they're volunteering, if you got somebody who knows what they're doing. You see Frank cleaning up, he knows what he's doing. All right, Frank was cleaning up, he did the work of 5 people. Okay, he got here, I didn't even know he was here yet, and I go, Billy says to me, Elder says, well, Frank's here. I go, yeah, he says, where is he? He's over there vacuuming. He vacuumed this whole building, cleaner than a whistle. Then he's in the room setting up and wiping down tables. This guy knows what he's doing, and he's here to help and volunteer, and I'm excited for you. Appreciate that. Okay, live stream. We'll get a couple from there, and then we'll go back over to here.
Okay, from Ashley Williams, says, question, can we equate partiality with leaven, parentheses, hypocrisy?
Yeah. Yes, you can. I think I kind of made the point. I think when we are doing things either in a partial way or we're showing partiality towards, that this is a level of hypocrisy in there, okay? Because the people that are doing these things, especially showing partiality, they don't want to be treated the way they're treating other people. So that's hypocrisy. They treat, but they don't want to be treated. See, remember, it's love your neighbor as yourself. So when they show partiality, well, if they're extra honoring somebody, they want to be extra honored too. But if they're ignoring somebody, they don't want to be ignored. Okay, if they're marginalizing somebody, they don't want to be that. Okay, next.
Okay, from M. Abraham Nixon, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. In James 2:13, compassion boasts over judgment. Could that be like Proverbs 10:12? Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all transgressions.
Yeah, I think there could be a connection there. There'd be something similar. Okay, I would say yes. Next.
All right, from Manuel Perez Gonzalez. Would not Yeshua be the perfect example for us of belief by works, since he did his Father's commands while on this earth?
All right. First of all, just another one I just say yes to. But anyway, Yeshua is the perfect example of everything. So yes, he's the perfect example of belief by works. And yes, he did everything his Father commanded him to do. As a matter of fact, he literally said, I only do what my Father told me to do. I only say what my Father tells me to say. Okay? So, I mean, he not only did it, he actually said it. So he said it and he did the works. So he spoke and did. All right, next.
Okay, from M. Abraham Nixon, could you please expand on James 2:15 chapter 2, verses 15 and 16? How can we know the difference between helping a brother or sister in need and enabling those who don't even want to try to, quote, feed or clothe themselves?
Okay, you kind of answered your own question. You just don't realize that it's in there. The key word is helping. What is actually helping them? So is giving them food helping them? Maybe. Is giving them money helping them? Maybe. So you have to figure out what actually will end up helping them, which means that you probably should bring in somebody who's used to helping people, that has the skill set to discern what may be enabling or entitling or causing more of a problem than actually helping. Because sometimes doing what you would think because you're trying to be helpful is not helping. It's actually making it worse. It's making the person feel even more entitled or enabled in their bad behavior that got them the problem in the first place, okay? So that's where you would go and bring that information to us. Now, in the short term, there's an urgency. Helping with that urgency, then going to get counsel and help is an appropriate way to go. If a person literally is, at least by all appearances, starving, well, get them a meal. Don't buy them a month's worth of groceries. Bring them to us for that problem, but go help them have a meal, okay? Fix the emergency, the urgency for that second, and then go get guidance and send them to someone who can be better suited to helping them with the problem, okay? Because you may not be qualified to assess correctly, because the question was, how do you know the difference between helping and enabling? Well, you may not be able to do that. It's hard to do, especially if you are more empathetic and sympathetic. Your emotions get drawn into it, okay? Much tougher for all you blues to do this, because you have so much more empathy than any other color does, right? So that personality is very loving that way. However, you also are the most enabling and most entitling people on the planet too, because of that emotional draw. So you need to find somebody who's got a little bit more dispassionate way of looking at things, who can help assess what really these people need, so we're actually helping them. Okay? So that's where you come to us and let us help you with that. But I don't say if someone's in an urgency that you wait and say, hey, we got to call us. I mean, you can do something to take the urgent emergency out of the mix and help them, at least very short term, while you're getting help. All right, next question.
Okay, from Line Upon Line, says, Rabbi, if someone believes in the Father and the Messiah, yet they're not in covenant, if they're breaking a command, they're not sinning against the Father because they're not in covenant.
All right. There's some complications with the wording here. Okay, look, when you say if someone believes in the Father and the Messiah, what does that even mean? Okay? So, because Christians claim that, but I don't think they believe what I believe about either one of them. Okay? The demons believe that. I don't think we believe the same way. I mean, so I don't know what that means if someone believes in the Father and Messiah. If they're not in covenant, well, let's deal with that part. Then breaking a covenant command is not sin between them and the Father, because they have not made a covenant. Okay? I cannot commit adultery on my wife if we're not married. Okay? If we're not married, it's not adultery. Now, I'm not saying it's not problematic for our relationship or anything else. I'm just saying there's certain things necessary to make something a problem, okay? And so for it to be a breach of relationship with the Father, you actually have to have a relationship with the Father. And that relationship, as I taught 55 parts of, is called covenant, right? Wasn't that 55? Something like that, right? Okay? So it took me 55 weeks, over a year, to help you understand what that relationship is. And if you're not in that, then you can't breach that, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, what's next? And remind me your first name?
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks you for the teaching. And speaking of belief, is there a difference between belief and faith, or they're like way similar?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there are different ways of expressing the same thing. I mean, trust is a part of belief. Faith is a part of belief. Believing something may be more simply that you believe that it's true. Okay, faith is more believing it's true, but you're relying on it in some way, okay? And trust is that you trust it. But that's why emunah is such a great word, because it has all of that in there, okay? So one word that kind of embraces all of those elements, all right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So like, for example, I can believe somebody is my father, right? But I may not have any faith that he'll act like a father. And I may not trust him, okay? But I believe he's my father. So yes, belief and faith are very similar in a lot of ways, but faith tends to have more of a trust element to it, or an expectation that I believe you will do something, okay? I think, and then belief is more just I believe that you are. Okay, and then I have faith that you will do, and then I trust that what you will do will be for my benefit, etc. So all those elements all come together. It's a good question. I don't think I've ever had to explain it that way before, so I like that. All right, and your name again?
Mark.
Mark, right. I just counted right before you said it too. I was like, yes, I remember you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I loved the playing of the shofar this morning. That was awesome. I
was lip syncing. That was a recording.
Oh. You could have fooled me.
It's a joke.
I watch your teachings at home, and I'm amazed by how many people get up here and say the things that they say. And I kind of find myself questioning, I wouldn't want to get up there and pat you on the back, so to speak. But here I am patting you on the back, and in the most humble way, trying to convey how much your teachings mean to me and to a lot of other people. Your works are bringing people out of darkness, and the strength and the courage that you have to stand up here behind the podium and do this in front of the world is amazing. And so if I can convey that to you and let you know how much that means to me, and give you praises and praise Yah for you, that's what I want to convey. And the message this morning, the difference between the belief and the works, you're the only speaker, teacher, anointed person that I've ever heard that's brought those correlations between the two. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, people speak about belief and not drawing the correlation between the belief and the works, and it's right there in the book. So just thank you for your message and for the strength and encouragement for you to keep doing this and to keep bringing people out of darkness. Amen.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I appreciate the encouraging words. Look, you got to understand why they don't make the correlation, okay? Their problem is not James, per se. I mean, they can read it and see that faith without works is dead, or belief without works is dead. The problem is they don't understand salvation and reward. And so without understanding that, they have a problem with what works and where works fits into this. Because what Christianity will do is accuse anybody that dares to say anything like I said, and James actually is the one that said it, not me, accuse us of teaching salvation based on works. And so having a works-based salvation is actually very scripturally problematic, because works and salvation have nothing to do with each other. Salvation is a free gift that was given so that you could have a reward potential. However, your reward is 100% works-based. Okay, it is works-based. You will reap what you did, what you sowed, okay? You will be judged according to what you do, according to your works. So your average Messianic, rabbi, pastor, whatever, your average Christian, they are all doggedly trying to defend this idea of salvation without works, because they think that salvation and reward are the same thing. You don't have to defend salvation without works. Salvation has nothing to do with works. He died before you were born. That already makes it salvation without works. Okay? As a matter of fact, if you read Scripture, it says he was even slain before the foundation of the world. So before anybody lived. Not that he literally was slain, but the idea was he was going to be slain. Before there was any works. But we don't understand what salvation is, which is why the Are You Saved teaching is so critical. And that's the teaching, Mark, that nobody's teaching. Nobody's explaining the relationship between salvation, faith, and works, or salvation, belief, and works. And that's why they can't read James and it makes sense. Look, I think most of these guys sound like really babbling idiots because they have to work so hard to tell you, I'm talking about the Messianics, that you have to keep the Torah, but tell you don't have to do it because it's faith, but it's by belief, but then that's why we do it. It sounds like stupidity and just babbling. Because they want to tell you that you have to do it, but they know they can't because they believe if they do that it's salvation by works. So they sound crazy because they can't speak straight because they have gotten these two things locked in together that are separate things. Salvation is not a reward. Please receive that. Revelation. Remember what I told you? Something's revealed to you. It's of only a value if you receive it. And then, like it says here, and if you then do something with it. In this case, change the way you think. Salvation is not a reward. Now let me give you the other half of that. Salvation is not a reward, but also, you ready for this? Salvation only makes the reward possible. So you can't have the reward without salvation. But salvation in itself is not the reward. What is the reward? Everlasting life. What is salvation? Deliverance from death. So you have a pass that is available to you so you can have death pass over you and you can have everlasting life. That's your Passover metaphor, right? But everlasting life is the reward. Salvation is not everlasting life. Salvation is deliverance from death. He did that for everybody. Messiah said, I give my life for the whole world. Does the whole world end up in the kingdom? No. Why? Because it's a reward. You have to earn it. Nobody had to earn the salvation. He made it possible so that all could be there. That's called salvation. Being there is a reward, though. Without salvation, you can't be there. Nobody can be there. Everybody just deserves to die. You're going to die. That's it. Why? This is simple enough, but it swims upstream against 2,000 years of lies. And so I appreciate when people say, well, we appreciate the courage you have to get up there and do this stuff. Listen, it's like thanking a hammer for being a hammer, okay? This is all I can do. I don't do it with any fear or any thought. I don't do it with any kind of issues. This is what I was made to do, okay? I didn't just go to school and get a degree and say, I'll give this a try. This is what I was made to do. And this is the only, people have said to me, well, I just pray you don't change. Change, this is what I've been doing for 20-something years, the same way. You don't know that? Go ask Shamash Uncle Bob. Okay, he came to the first Sukkot I ever did in 1999 or 2000, whatever it was, okay? And he'll tell you, I don't sound any different. If anything, he might say I sound a little gentler. I was a little crazy strong back then, believe it or not, compared to now. In some ways, I think I'm stronger now. It doesn't matter. The message isn't any different, okay? Because he called me to be what he already made me to be. He didn't have to train me to be this. This is the way, if you talk to me away from the podium, I'm the same. The same intensity, the same strength, because he's using a tool that he created to be this tool. So I appreciate you saying, well, we appreciate your courage. It doesn't take any courage for me to do this. This is me being me, okay? I don't get nervous up here going, oh, people are going to get mad when I say that or something. I'm just being me. I don't do it on purpose to try to stir anything up. I just being me. And if you don't understand that, talk to Elder. Elder will tell you he's with me all the time, more than anybody else other than my wife. And he can tell you, I'm just this way all the time. Okay? So I appreciate the comments, just you need to understand. I do this, why? Because somebody had to, and he picked me to do it, and I can do it, so I do it with everything I got, because nobody else is doing it. Okay? So I think that's important. All right, Shama Steve.
Okay. See if I'm going to ask this thought is correct. When it comes to loving your neighbor, how far-fetched is the thought that in some cases, maybe even all, those who challenge our ability to love them are those that have been allowed in our lives to show us the areas that we are lacking?
There's probably a lot to that. I would say there's probably a lot to that. You know? You might want to ask the question, okay, this for all of you. If you struggle to love somebody, you might want to ask the question, why? Just to figure out what is it going on inside of you that makes it hard for you to love them. You're always going to ask the question why and go the other way. Say, well, because they're this. No, but why do you struggle to love them being all of that? Okay? Don't tell me all your reasons why they're hard to love. Why do you struggle with it, though? We already will accept that they're hard to love. Some of you are hard to love. And some of you make it hard for people to love you. Some of you are scared of it, so you literally do it on purpose to keep people at arm's length. But when you struggle to love someone, you should be asking the question, why am I struggling to do it? I know why it's hard to do, because they're making it harder than whatever. But why can't I find a way around that or push through it or overcome that? Okay? Because there's ways to get there. There's definitely ways to get there. All right, Deirdre.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom.
I'm a little nervous about coming up here, but I'm in a safe place. I'm surrounded by brothers and sisters of many different skin colors, and I love the rainbow that I see.
And you're a daughter, too. So.
And I'm a daughter, so Papa's right there.
Okay.
I know recently, there's just been this whole thing about white privilege. I don't know what that is. I grew up in a trailer park, surrounded by palmetto bugs. I didn't go to Ivy League schools. I went to inner city schools. I don't live in a gorgeous house. I live in an apartment complex. I'm not crying because I don't know what that is. I'm crying because it's painful for me to know that because of my skin color, I'm looked at like I have more, or that I'm expected to have more than what I do, and other skin colors are expected to not have that. I don't believe in privilege. Yahweh doesn't choose us over skin color. Yeah, there's no getting into the kingdom because we have a certain skin color.
All right. Let me clarify from here. All of those kinds of things, white privilege or looking down at black this or that Spanish, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're looking at, these are the straw men that are put out there. Okay, you know what a straw man is? It's not a real thing. It's just something you can point at because it's a rallying point to target something, okay? There are bad white people. There are bad black people. There are bad every color person. There are good every color person. So what they want to do, look, how do you think the Jews got targeted in all the times that the Jews got targeted? Because that was the straw man. Whatever our problem is, we're going to blame them, okay? So instead of recognizing that some white people are problematic, some Jews are problematic, some black people are problematic, some Spanish people are problematic. No, we're not going to do that because the people are problematic. It had nothing to do with what color they were. We're going to use that as a rallying point to target a group of people. And so you are now experiencing what a lot of the black community did for a long time, is that you're being pointed at and picked on because of your skin color. And that's not shocking, I suppose, because after all it was done to them, why wouldn't they do it to others? Okay? I'm going to say this right for the internet. Some of the most racist people I've ever heard on public anything are the black Hebrew Israelites. And they're upset about stuff that was done to them because they're black, and then they're just like whatever they're mad at. Okay? Some of the most vile stuff comes out of their mouths. Why would that makes no sense. You're destroying any case that anybody should have compassion on you because of anything you suffered. And by the way, none of them ever suffered anything. They're generationally they were not slaves. Okay? Nobody's been a slave for a very long time. And by the way, none of the white people you're pointing at owned any of them for a very long time. So why don't we treat people because they're people? Oh, but your ancestors. My ancestors are not me. Let's go with Ezekiel 18. If my father was a piece of garbage and I'm righteous, I'm going to be okay. And if he was righteous and I'm garbage, I'm not going to be okay. So let's stop all that. But sadly, and I don't want to pick on you for this, we as white people shouldn't feel so attacked. Why? Black people got attacked. Other people get attacked. There's people getting attacked all the time. The thing is, we're not used to it. Okay? We're not used to it. And so, but just understand, when the finger's pointed at you is because you're being packaged for an agenda. Okay? There was an agenda against women, so they couldn't vote. There's an agenda against black people, so they couldn't vote. There's an agenda against white people. Oh, you guys are so privileged. So we have There's an agenda against straight people now. There's an agenda against this. Everything is about packaging people into a group and having an agenda against them. Okay? What?
I don't feel attacked. I don't understand.
I just explained it to you, though, so now you hopefully understand.
Yes, I understand it now.
It's for the purpose of taking my suffering and pointing at somebody to blame for it. Okay? That's what it is. Nothing else. I want to blame somebody because, God forbid, I should own my suffering. Okay? Doesn't matter. By the way, all of you in whatever community you're in, I don't care, the black community, white community, whatever it is, every one of you has people, same skin color as you, that got out of there, elevated out, and they didn't need some special law to do that. They made choices not to stay in the mire, in the muck, in the drugs, in the this, in the that, and they elevated themselves. White, black, green, yellow, doesn't matter. There's people in every one of those communities that can tell you, I was there and now look where I am now. Oh, well, that's because no, don't make excuses. They picked themselves up and made something happen. You'd rather point a finger than lift yourself up and make something happen. Oh, but the man won't let me. That's nonsense in 2023. Stop that. I know, don't tell me there's still prejudice. I get that. I get prejudiced against. Every one of you, if you're white, you get prejudiced, you're black, you get prejudiced. You're old, if you're young, if you're fat, if you're skinny, if you're Jewish, if you're Catholic, if you're this, if you're that. It doesn't matter. There's some group, whatever you are, somebody's picking on it. So stop telling me you're being picked on. Yes, I believe that. So what? Elevate out of it. Elevate out of it. Nobody owns you, and so nobody's stopping you from leaving where you are and going someplace else and making a new life for yourself, except you. You're the only one preventing you from having the success in your life. And you're too busy pointing the finger at everybody else. And you need to knock that off. You know what you need to do? You need to shut up. I got you, didn't I? I got you. That's Elder. Elder loves it when I do that. Seriously, stop talking. Do something. No, don't break into stores. Don't destroy people's property. Get a job. Get 2 jobs. Get 3 jobs. So this is what lazy people who would rather point a finger than work do, okay? I'm not saying you're not a prejudiced group. Everybody's in a prejudiced group. I mean, think about it. You would never have thought about this years ago. There are Asian people that are being prejudiced against trying to get into like Harvard because they're smart. And so there's too many of them in there now, so we have to be prejudiced against them to let more something else in instead. Every group, you're smart, you can be prejudiced against. You're dumb, you can be prejudiced against. You're good looking, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. Everybody's prejudiced against by somebody. Can we all understand that? Okay? The jocks didn't like the nerds. The nerds didn't like the jocks in high school. And it didn't matter what the color was. If you were on the sports teams, then you were in the math team, you didn't like each other because it had nothing to do with skin color at that point. It just had to do with, you're an athlete, I'm a brain. Okay, so now we're going to fight over and look down at each other because I'm smart and you're an athlete. No, one can do something the other one can't do, and the other one can do something the other one can't do. So what? So what? Okay? Stop whining. Stop being a victim. That's really what I should be telling you. Stop being a victim. Okay? I personally know incredibly successful people of every category that we talked about. I also know a bunch of losers in every category that we talked about. And by losers, I mean losing is an attitude. Being a victim, pointing a finger, not doing anything to help yourself, and blaming everybody else in your life and making excuses, that's a loser. White losers, black losers, yellow losers, green losers, every age, every size, every shape, every nationality, it's success and losing, has no regard for any of that. Do you know that every country has millionaires? Every country has poor people. How is that possible? And all of the same skin color. Some people do something, other people do nothing. Which is you. Which is you. And you prove to me that you can't make it in this country especially. Go ahead, try and prove that to me. And I'll go and bring you 15 people exactly like you that are already making it. Same age, same color, same background, same everything. So you can't even say, oh, well, they had more education. I'll find someone with exact education to yours that's making it. Stop making excuses, okay? And stop picking on me, her, whoever. Stop picking on people as being your excuse. Because then that person becomes your enemy. Because they're the reason you don't have. That's why the Jews got picked on all the time. Jews had, and people said, well, we don't have, so they must be the reason we don't have. But you know what? If you look at some of the cultures that are doing so well, they have a culture of what? Hard work. They also have a culture of family. All right? Go look at the worst neighborhoods. I don't care if they're white or black. No fathers around. Drugs, crime. Color makes no difference. Okay? But the factors that make the difference, lazy, taking advantage, stealing instead of going out and actually making a living, drugs, no fathers around to do anything, no structure. That happens, by the way, in every country. And so the skin color never matters. Every country has this problem. Because there's a part of our society in our world that are lazy victims who want to point a finger and do nothing. Look, one day I was on unemployment. And only once did I ever go to unemployment to collect unemployment. I thought, well, I never did this before. I'll go get it. Because normally I just am unemployed for 5 minutes. I go do something. So somebody said, well, you should go collect unemployment. So I said, okay, let me go. And I go to the unemployment office. And I'm sitting there filling out the form, and sitting across from me are 3 people having a conversation, whining that they have to fill out the form because it used to be they show up and the person behind the desk filled it out for them. And I looked at them and I'm like, I am not going to be in the same room with you and be one of you. I left. I said, they can keep the money, I'll just go get a job. I'm not going to be with people that are so entitled, they're whining that they have to actually fill out a form to be entitled. While bragging about all the cash jobs they have on the side while they're getting this money from the government. I said, I cannot be one of these people. So I just got up and left. it's the way things are. The question is, what are you going to do? What kind of person are you going to be? You going to be Yeshua-like? If you're going to be Yeshua-like, guess what? You have to be the hardest working, most diligent, most reliable, most owning your life so you can give it to him. If you're going to be complacent, lazy, sitting back, and there's none of those. Do you know that the kingdom is waiting for a bunch of worker bees? Okay? There's no harp playing la, 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 la in the kingdom. You're going to be given stuff to do. Okay? You may be given a whole solar system and said, here you go. Make something of it. Okay? And you're going to be looking at them like, what? I couldn't even flip burgers. Listen, figure out how to work. Okay? Be reliable. Do something. All right?
Thank you. I know a lot of people are going to get mad because I brought up the subject, being...
No. People need to understand, whatever group you're in, there's somebody who's going to pick on you and attack you. So it doesn't matter. You may be a group that's looked at because you're attacking another group, but at some point you're going to be the one that's being attacked. It goes around. Okay, it always goes around.
Okay.
All right? You're welcome.
Thank you, Papa.
You're welcome. Another daughter.
First and foremost, I wanted to say thank you for showing me James chapter 2, verse 25 about Raquel. Now I have no reason to say anything about anything. But my question, and I want to get my question, it is about the love your neighbor. What happens if we have... I want to say this carefully. We have gossiping going around and someone just wants to vent to me, but that venting then turns into, well, should I not hang out with groups of people because I want to protect myself and my family, whether they would harm me or not. What would you say to that?
All right, look, we have a very big challenge as a body, okay? Now, the big challenge that we have is that we tend to run our mouths. What I mean by that is this. Rather than deal with the people that you should be dealing with when something's going on, we go and talk to everybody but that person. By the way, I want you to really hear this. If you spend time with people who are talking about other people, who do you think they're talking about when you're not there? Oh, you're not thinking that, though. You're not thinking about what you should wonder. I wonder what you say about me when I'm not here. Stop talking to people that cannot help you or fix your problem about your problem, okay? Oh, do you know, can you believe this happened in class, or this happened at work, or this happened with my husband, this happened with my wife? Stop that. I'm not saying if you have your one close friend, which you kind of are each other's counseling or whatever, and that's fine. But some of you are telling everybody, or way too many people, everything that's going on except the person you really need to talk to who can fix it. All right? Which is either the person that did the thing that you're all upset about or me. Because if it's in this community, I can probably fix it. But you don't want to come to me. And you don't want to go to them. So you're going to go to everybody else. So the answer to you, though, is when that happens, that's not a safe place to be. You need to create a boundary. You need to tell that person, I don't need to hear all of this. So this is how you handle stuff. When people come to you and start yakking about somebody, the first thing you say is, have you spoken to them? No. Then why are you telling me? Have you spoken to Rabbi? No. Then why are you telling me? The only reason they should be telling you is asking for help on how to tell them. If that's not happening, you shouldn't be involved in that whole thing. Okay, Ashley, you and I are good friends, and I'm having a problem with Maisie, and I'm going to talk to you, and I say, look, I don't know what to do. Maybe you can help me understand how to have my problem with Maisie. That would be a conversation that's okay, because I'm looking for help on how to deal with this. But if I'm just going to tell you bad things about her, and try to get you to feel bad too, which, by the way, that's the thing you guys do that's the worst, is that if you don't like something, you're going to be happiest only when everybody else feels the same way about that something you don't like, or that person you don't like. That's emotional manipulation. Knock it off. Okay? If I'm mad at her and I talk to you, I'm going to want you to be mad at her. And everybody else I talk to, I'm going to want you to be mad at her. That's terrible. Okay? So let's stop doing that. So you need to create that boundary that says, hey, I understand you're upset. Have you talked to that person you're upset about? No. How can I help you with this? Because I'm not just here to have you vent. Is there anything that I can help you with? Because all I'm going to do is encourage you to go fix it with them or go talk to Rabbi.
And that's what I've done.
Good, and that's all you can do.
Okay, so my question is then, because I still want to love the person that they're talking about, love your neighbor as you love yourself, but then it messes with my mind and it clouds it. Like, so how do I still love them when I'm concerned whether something may be true or maybe not be true? How does that work until it can get resolved?
All right. You see what the problem is? The problem is that they have now planted a question in your head.
Yes.
A doubt.
Very much so.
What if this person really did that? Maybe that's a problem.
And if they didn't, I'm missing out on a beautiful friendship.
Okay, so what did I say earlier about me? I only treat people based on how they treated me. Okay? So now, if they treated you bad and I was standing right there, that would also be a part of that. In other words, unless I was actually there, I'm not going to have it affect how I see you, because I didn't see you actually do anything. Okay? So if I was not there, and here's the worst part, you're often enough going to hear from somebody that they also weren't there. Somebody already told them and they're telling you. But they're upset about it because they empathized and they basically bought into that emotion of the other person. Now they want you to buy into the emotion. Next thing you know, everybody's in this terrible emotional space. And then you all sit down with me and I'm ready to hit everybody. Because it's a waste of my time and it's just, I don't have any interest in all that emotional junk. Because the thing that happened often enough isn't that huge, and almost nobody upset about it was even there. Okay? But they heard this one said this one, and this one said that one, and this happens every week, all the time. Okay? Sometimes it's the children. Parents, when it's the children, for the most part, stay out of it. Let the children figure it out. Children are children. There's a lot of drama, trauma. They talk about all kinds of. By the way, do not remember being a child, and some of you are going to be like, well, you were the exception, okay? But as a child, I remember being a teenager. We talked about all kinds of things we shouldn't have been talking about. Everything you can imagine, sexual, drug, language, whatever, we talked about it. But you flip out if your kid talks about it. The problem is your kid's so weak at this point, because generationally we've become weaker and weaker, that they're having a meltdown over these things that you would have never had a meltdown when you were a kid. Because it was just normal, stupid stuff that we did, right? But generationally, now the generations can't handle it. So you have to be a little bit more careful with them and help. Your job is to help strengthen them, not coddle them and enable and encourage the weakness. Okay? Now you're not just going to smack them and say, hey, shape up and toughen up. No, help them to learn how to become strong. Show them that, hey, nothing terrible actually happened. It just wasn't comfortable. It wasn't this. Or if something did terrible happen, then let's process it properly and get the right help for it. Well, let's deal with it head on. Otherwise, you're going to create someone who's going to be a victim the rest of their life. And I'm already counseling enough adult victims who were child victims who are still adult victims, and getting them to let go of all that. A lot easier if we could get them when they're young and it's closer to the event than having to deal with this after 50 years of being a victim. All right? All right.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. All right, excellent.